We're going to bring up one of AWA's Emerging Curator Fellows to present the readers for today. If you haven't yet, please check out Political Inheritance on AWA's website, where you're going to find a selection of photos from a collaboration between our Emerging Curator, Lauren Ito, and Kristen Murakoshi. But without further ado, here's Lauren to present the readers.
Thanks so much, Diana, and thank you, Sing, for that frame and really framing both the urgency as well as the intersectionality that politics and this moment in particular has on all of our lives and all of our communities. So thank you again. Really honored to be here. Also, so much gratitude to AWA for both holding this space as well as creating spaces like the Emerging Curators Program for folks like myself and Kumar Deep, who's the second Emerging Curator Fellow, to lean into organizing and growth and facilitating spaces like this. What I'm really excited to do is bring up in just a moment 3 really, really incredible poets that are speaking to political action and their own identities in their work. I think when it comes to the intersection of art and politics, they're always very much intertwined. And there is a writer named Ernesto Cardenal who says, literature should be at the service of mankind. For that very reason, poetry should also be political. And that is very much the frame with which I am going to introduce the following readers who will be sharing their work with you today. So first, we have Greer Nakadegawali. Her pronouns are she, her. Grier is an amazing poet and has a book out right now with Nomadic Press. I will link it in just a moment. So highly encourage you all to, after hearing her work today, please following up and continuing to read her work. Yes, her work is very incredible. So Grier is 16 years old and a junior at Oakland Technical High School. She has written a poem every day for over 2 years now, and she is the 2020 Oakland Youth Poet Laureate. Can we please all do a virtual round of applause for that? Yes. Her first chapbook, A Heart Full of Hallways, which again I will attach via chat, is out now with Nomadic Press. Grier writes poetry that is both a demand for us all to critically examine the world around us and an intimate personal exploration of her own deepest thoughts and experiences. And without any further ado, I will pass the mic to Grier to share her work with us today. Take it away, Grier.
Hi, everyone. I just wanted to start by saying thank you to Lauren for inviting me, and thank all of you for letting me share this space with you, because I'm just really excited to be at this event because it's just very powerful. So I've got 3 poems for you guys, and I'm just going to jump right into it. This first one is called Ozoni, which is after the soup my dad makes for Japanese New Year. The thing about conforming to a nation that wants to cherry pick its favorite parts of your culture is you're only left with what it hands back to you. I feel like I could paint myself Asian, and by the end of the day, it would all wash off. I feel like I'm always looking for pieces of myself in other people's hands. So I sit at the table and try to feel full again. Isn't it silly, looking at the bottom of my bowl for something my family lost generations ago, to try and collect myself, to try and read peace, when I feel like I'm hanging onto my own body by a thread, but it doesn't hurt to drink the broth. It doesn't hurt to help my dad chop vegetables and watch my cousin pull the mochi from the oven, to stop looking for myself at the bottom of the bowl, because at the end of the day, there are things that just couldn't be taken from me. I am whole, and there's no more skin on the cutting board tonight, no more blood. My body finally found its way back to me. Thank you. The second poem is called The Body. It all comes back to the body again. It is never just words, I mean, just a speech or just economic policy. I hide my love letters in poems, and they hide their hatred in calls for states' rights and cries of Blue Lives Matter. And it took me so long to learn that all these things come to blood in the end. It is never just a matter of skyscrapers. of getting fish out of the ocean. It's about the undocumented fishermen paid in coins. It's about the hands that take the knife, that raise the saw and plunge it back into the earth. I'm saying it is always about the blood, and aren't you sick of it? Aren't you also choking on the false innocence of politicians who've never seen the bodies their decisions lowered into the earth, never sat numb in the hunger their actions made? There are cities in America where it's illegal to give food to the homeless, and people plucked off the streets because they dared to protest violence against another body, and doctors forced to resign because they saved their patient's life but against someone else's religion. And all these things are about the body too. I'm saying it is all about the blood, and it is also all about your hands. I'm saying in a country like this, the most radical thing we can do is take care of each other. Thank you. This is my last poem. Thank you guys so much. It's called Letter to My Home. California, I know if you had it your way, I wouldn't exist. Because my Japanese grandpa and my white grandma raising a family looked like an enemy combatant taking over your country to you. Because even after living through the internment camps, my grandpa couldn't legally get married in his own state. When I was in elementary school, I made a diagram of the house a Japanese American family might come back to, all scar tissue and spray paint. We listened to a song designed to teach tragedy. The white boys couldn't get the word Jap out of their mouths at recess. America, you teach all that English philosophy in schools and never tell your Asian students what those philosophers thought of their skin. Fitting for a country whose currency has pictures of slave owners on it, that you thought you could so cleanly separate a man's morality from his actions, that you thought you could erase so many of us. America, you're always so eager to bury the bones of the people who built your country. You talk about welcoming immigrants, but you welcome them by the shade of their skin. America, I know I got lucky, but the memory of what you've done still makes me sick. Still makes me too angry to sleep. Still makes me guilty in my every silence, in the hollow sound of every person's name who I let go uncorrected. America, you got unlucky with me because I am done whispering. You gave me this language and I'm using it to tell you this. America, we won't forget all the ways you tried to unmake us. Thank you guys so much.
Oh my gosh. Wow. Can we have a moment of just celebrating Grier with some virtual applause? Thank you so much for your words, Grier. As always, it is such an honor and such a treat. I'm going to read back a few of the quotes that people have pulled from what you've just shared. I'm saying it's all about the blood. Aren't you sick of it? The most radical thing we can do in this country is to take care of each other. All the ways you tried to unmake us. Wow, wow, wow. In addition to the link to purchase Grier's book, which you see in the chat, we will also be uploading socials so you can continue to follow Grier's journey. And as you can probably tell from what she shared thus far, the journey is definitely one that you want to keep up on. So thank you so much, Grier, for sharing. And thank you for going first. Let's hear it up again for Grier. Thank you so much. Oh, wow. I always cry every time there's poetry present. Oh, our next reader is the incredible Jenny Chi. Pronouns are she and her. Jenny and I have known each other for a number of years now and are in a sometimes meeting poetry group called the TBD named poetry group. So we always joke that if you have a name for our poetry group, please send that recommendation our way. Jenny is a writer and a scientist, a child of survivors of the Chinese Cultural Revolution. She grew up mostly in Las Vegas and moved to San Francisco to complete her PhD in cancer biology. Jenny's essays and poems have been published in the New York Times, The Atlantic, Tin House, Rattle, Ziziva, and elsewhere. She's been awarded fellowships from Tin House, Omnidon, and SF Writers Grotto, as well as Kearney Street Workshop. And her full-length collection, titled Focal Point, has been a finalist for the Jake Adam York Prize, and the Crab Orchard series in poetry. Cannot wait to hear Jenny's incredible work. And I will now pass the mic to you, Jenny, to take it away.
Thank you so much, Lauren. Thank you for inviting me to be here. It's so good to finally hear you, Grier. I will get right into it. Okay. As soon as my computer unfreezes. So I have two poems for you guys. The first one, a few months ago, someone asked me to write a poem about being Asian American at a time when this country is being ravaged by what the President of the United States calls the Chinese virus. This is about face. A friend asks, have I encountered racism due to the pandemic after reading about attacks on women and elderly citizens of Asian descent? I said no, and after a pause, I don't usually walk alone anymore, only with my white boyfriend, so I can borrow his skin like a coat, wrap it tight round my neck. I thought of the week after the election, walking home as usual, alone in the dark, a truck's high beam speeding towards me, startled by a shout from the open window. Go back where you came from, cunt. I'd almost forgotten. I will never belong here. My parents scoff. You will always have a Chinese face. This impersonal rage, familiar and foreign as home. Like my last childhood house, the only place we lived for more than a year, everything white like a hospital sheet. So empty and quiet, I whispered when friends came over. I'd wanted to paint my bedroom walls a color, any color, but my parents said no, they just have to be repainted when we move. They kept plastic on the sofa for protection. I hated how the plastic stuck to bare legs, so I picked it off like sunburned skin. Within days, my jeans stained the cream pleather a dirty blue. What happens when you try to do things the American way? Worse, the bare sofa still stuck to sweaty summer legs, chilled my green winter core. How could I have forgotten not to be comfortable? It's critical now to let our discomfort fuel us. And my next piece is a work in progress, much like our democracy. I actually wrote this as a series of poem letters to a friend in 2018 and revisited them recently, struck and kind of appalled by how relevant it all still is. And so I just want to preface with a couple of notes about this poem. First, October 1st, 2 days ago, marked 3 years since the shooting in my hometown of Las Vegas, where a man opened fire on a music festival, killed 60 people and wounded another over 400. And second, as of yesterday, October 2nd, over 8,000 fires have burned over 4 million acres in California, which is more than 4% of the state that is our current home. And I want you to keep these numbers in mind for this poem. Borderline, July 1st, 2018. Does the sky look yellow where you are? Wildfires, I tell myself, but I can't shake the heaviness of this new slant of light. November 8th, 2018. Another fire in California. Ashes rise and scatter, so the air swells with it, thick in my throat like mourning. Waking, I try to cough out remnants from the last. The 2018 wildfire season was the deadliest recorded in California, 1.8 million acres burned. There are 108 million acres in California. Hours south, fire at the Borderline Country Bar, a place of solace for survivors. And as they raced for safety, many of them thought, not again, after last year in Las Vegas. Some not so lucky twice. I remember my school friends from Vegas liked country music. Hadn't thought to ask after them then. Our friendships so long faded. Still, a slight relief, then guilt, when I don't recognize names. There were 340 mass shootings in 2018. There are 365 days in a year. Borderline. Adjective. On the boundary of what is acceptable, valid, or normal. I spent last week in Mexico for Dia de los Muertos, more accurately, Entera Semana de Muertos, Week of the Living masquerading as dead. Add a letter, entera is a cognate for inter or bury. In Mexico, what is buried rises with the day. An entire grave site uncovered, bodies posed in a museum. Just this year, another temple discovered beneath the soil, basins still flecked with sacrificial blood. What we learn repeatedly about the ancients, how violence normalized across millennia won't stay hidden. The Aztecas, the missing 43 in Iguala, neither the first nor last. What it's like to live in a country where death is normalized. Thank you.
Wow. Oh my gosh. Jenny. Can we do a round of virtual applause? A second round of virtual applause for Jenny, please. Thanks, y'all. Oh my goodness. I'm gonna read a few lines that folks have pulled out. On the boundary of what is acceptable, valid, or normal. Week of the living masking as dead. A place of solace for survivors, many of them thought not again. And lastly, what it's like to live in a country where death is normalized. Wow. Oh, thank you so much for your words, Jenny. And Jenny's info is in the chat, so highly encourage you to also follow Jenny's journey and read a lot of her work, which is readily accessible and published widely online. So thank you so much, Jenny, for joining and for bringing your beautiful words and work to this space. Oh my gosh, don't you love poetry on a Saturday? There's really nothing better. Oh my gosh, maybe can we do a collective breath together to ground ourselves before I introduce our third and final poet. So let's inhale, hold for a moment, and exhale. I often say that when doing readings and when you have certain readers in the room, it becomes deep breath poetry, and it very much feels like one of those days. So thank you to Grier and thank you to Jenny. And this leads me into our third and final reader, Dena Rod, pronouns they, them, theirs. I also just want to name, when I first moved to San Francisco and was just beginning to explore writing, I met Dena, and they were one of the first people that really welcomed me into the community of writers and poets in San Francisco and really affirmed and celebrated my work. So thank you, Dena, for being a force of community and catalyzing others' journeys. And it's just such a treat to share this space with you today. So a little bit about Dena. Dena Rod is a writer, editor, and poet based in the Bay Area. They're the assistant creative nonfiction editor at Homology Lit, run the Radar Productions blog, and is a reader for The Rumpus. Their debut poetry collection, Scattered Arrows. I apologize, Dena. Please feel free to step in if I'm mispronouncing it horrendously, is forthcoming from Milk and Cake Press in May 2021. Dena works to illuminate their diasporic experiences of Iranian American heritage and queerness, combat negative stereotypes of their intersecting identities. And Dena is very much a performer I look up to in the Bay, and I could not be more excited for them to share their work with you today. So I will pass the mic to Dena. Please, please, please take it away. And thank you again for being here.
Thank you so much for that generous introduction. I'm really honored with all the kind words that you said, and feeling is definitely mutual in terms of you fostering my continuing art existence in the Bay Area. So my name is Dena Rod. I am sharing some poems with you today that are all written in quarantine. I've been working on these poems, missing case reports for things that we are missing in the pandemic. This one is case number 0992003. Missing justice. She left years ago, but everyone pretended she was still here, wearing her robes like they weren't found empty and warm against an unset altar. All of our fears crashing down on us. My dear Justice left her blindfold on top. The process of making life invisible while we're unaware of our own need. Case number 0912002. Missing decorum, the propriety only known for certain stratas. Manners shifted into keeping distance with hands over hearts, a quick nod instead of pressing faces together and kissing strangers on the cheek. Now we twirl with each other through the awkward dance of keeping enough space between us so our love will fill in all that emptiness to show how much of us remains anymore. This next poem I wrote after the June uprisings and the difficult conversations that came up as a result. Dear Faith in White America, I don't know why I keep coming back to you like an abandoned dog looking for another owner that won't kick its ribs inside. Why I keep trying to see the best in you despite all of the things you refuse to see. How you bend your back over and pull out knots of your flesh to show me how much you're bleeding. But there's a wound on this ground which has never closed. It's festered into an ooze that never crusted over, and the earth's skin hasn't produced shining new layers to cover and close this wound because we keep pouring white salt into its open mouth. Where does it begin? When you see knots of flesh that haven't really ever been your own, but again, against knowing where and how much it takes for you to pull your body over the border into civility. And I don't want your water, blood, tears, or otherwise to quench my thirst. I just want to be able to pull my own flesh into my hands, show you what has sunk into me without ever asking for it. What I never needed, what I'm still trying to dig out like the shell of a tick that once climbed into the foxhole of a pore that's been there since I was 12. And yet I still want to rehabilitate you, keep you in my life for the next 23 years until we both have cracks in our smiles etched in, once uncreased into the youth we carried into our faces. Direct your path so it locks a step into mine, so I don't have to leave you behind in the next journey I am taking. Where does your path lead if I don't bring you with me? All I keep coming up with are cliches and rage, neither of which are very effective to bring you into where I want you to be, because that's what it is. I want you to be better. And you just keep circling into yourself without ever looking up, throwing another hand up that serves to keep the dirt on your back, creeping into a mound, burying yourself. How do we turn into each other's versions of ourselves while keeping together? Strength, maybe, into a new realm. This next poem is called White Walls. White walls always surrounded us, but we couldn't see them until you walked into one, broke your nose and painted your blood against one while screaming. How a birthmark smoothed on drywall so we could always remember the day we could finally see what was always there. What a shame. But truly, shame shifted into understanding, and now we can see the walls and how we're caged. This is my last poem for today, case number 0912003. Missing. Unbroken precedents. Each day runs farther away from what we knew, but still fills the same shape in our memories. After all, a chipped teacup still cradles boiling water until that vital crack down its side leaks out life, drop by drop. My name is Dena Rod. Thank you so much, Lauren, for inviting me and having me. My poetry collection, Scattered Arrows, will be coming out on Milk and Cake Press next year in May 2021. Thank you.
Oh my gosh, can we please have a standing ovation for the amazing Dena? Oh my gosh. I was so overwhelmed listening to you that I didn't get down all of the lines that I wanted to quote you on, but I will read back just a few that my and other folks' fingers captured. Oh my gosh, she was missing years ago. Show how much of us remains anymore. Dear faith in white America, I don't know why I keep coming back to you. Ooh, we keep pouring salt or white salt in its open mouth. Now we can see the walls and how we are caged. And lastly, I want you to be better, and you just keep circling into yourself without looking up. Wow. Thank you, Dena, for being here today. And again, their socials and their book is coming out shortly. So please, please, please continue to follow Dena's work, as well as Jenny's work, as well as Grier's work. You will not regret it, and will continue to be inspired by their words, as well as the way activism very much intersects with each of their journeys. Thank you three for being here, and thank you for bringing your words into this space to inspire not only how we think about the way our own biographies intersect with politics in this moment, but to also inspire the art that we will all be creating together today.